On the October 10th, 1991 broadcast of Later with Bob Costas, actor Ken Wahl talked about his role as Vinny Terranova on the series Wiseguy, how he got the job, how he lost the job. Besides Wiseguy, they talked about the film The Wanderers, where everybody first got sight of Ken Wahl. And they also talk about the film that Wahl was promoting very briefly, called The Taking of Las Vegas. The best part of the interview, though, is talking about playing baseball, and celebrity baseball. And you can tell Costas was itching to tell the story of hitting a triple off of Bob Gibson. And Wahl handles Bob's tale very well and humorously. So this is a great interview with Ken Wahl. Costas usually did great interviews, so check this one out.
Thanks for staying up later. Ken Wahl is with us. He was, of course, TV's Wiseguy. And, you know, just before we sat down here, I was talking to a friend of mine who is a TV critic for a newspaper, and he said, "Who are you doing next?" I said, "Ken Wahl." He said, "You're kidding me. This guy doesn't do any TV shows." You uncomfortable with it, or?
A little bit, but that was a lot of misinformation came about through the media when I didn't do a lot of these things during the filming of Wiseguy. And the reason for that was not because I didn't want to talk to them, but I just simply did not have the time. I was working on average between 70 and 90 hours a week on that show, and there wasn't very much time left to do any kind of promotion. Yeah. And so a lot of people took it personally and took it the wrong way. And as a result of that, things were written that I was difficult and unapproachable and all those kind of things. But that's not true. It's a lot different promoting a television series than it is a movie, because when you're promoting a movie, you have finished it months before. But I think a lot of prevailing network thinking also is that the promotion of a show becomes more important than the show itself. And I resisted that because I put all my energy into making the show rather than promoting it. But I did do some things during the hiatus, during the hiatus periods.
Part of the promotion was at least a billboard campaign, maybe it was in magazines too, that if looks could kill thing. I don't know many sane people that are comfortable with that, so I'm guessing that that didn't make you feel too great.
You're guessing I'm sane?
Yeah. Well,
there's your first mistake, Bob.
I'm going to give you that as a premise and then go from there.
Okay. Well, that's the network. That was CBS doing. And I had no control over that. I didn't even know about it, honestly, because we shot Wiseguy in Vancouver. And they didn't have the billboards and the posters and all that up there. And somebody called me and told me that these posters were around town. And I said, that's great, but I never saw one until after the season was over. But I don't really take it that seriously. There's nothing I can do about it. And they have their job to do to promote the show in the way they see fit. So that's all right. But, yeah, I could have done without it.
Yeah. To what extent do you figure celebrity, if that's what we're going to call it, is useful, helps you get roles, helps promote the popularity of a show, and to what extent does it cross the line and you have no use for it?
Personally, I think it hurts more than helps. I really do. I think that the more an audience knows who you are as a person, the less equipped they are to absorb a role you're playing. Because the more they know you, they say, well, he wouldn't do that because I know what he would do because he talked about it on Bob Costas' show,
yeah,
you know, something like that. And I really think that by not doing the publicity, you're almost doing the audience a favor, in a way. Now, on the other hand, it's a sword that cuts both ways, because on the other hand, you have to allow people to know what's out there in order for them to make the choice whether to see it or not, too. And that's what I'm doing now. Hopefully I'm drumming up a little business and sell a few tickets for the movie. You know, so. And that's why I wasn't against doing publicity for Wiseguy. I was just against doing it while I was working. I did it one time. They talked me into it. And I did an interview with Rolling Stone magazine. And this was after I had worked from 4:30 in the morning, got back to the hotel at about 11:30 at night, and the guy was asking me the questions. And sure enough, he wrote in the article that I was answering the questions as though I were in traffic court. And that was just because I was barely conscious. You know, I was so tired. And because Wiseguy was a different kind of a show, not only in the fact that we did 5- and 6-episode storylines, But the fact that most other hour dramas had large casts, they had 12, 15 regulars in Hill Street Blues, L.A. Law, shows like that. In Wiseguy, I was in 85 to 95% of the scenes. Plus, I was a producer on the show. And in essence, you were doing 3 episodes at once. You're going through the editing and talking with the production staff about the episode you had just completed, filming the one you're doing now, and working on the story for the next one. It's very, very hard work.
Yeah, the thing you pointed out isn't maybe unique about Wiseguy, but it was rare, at least, which was you'd have villains, for example,
yes,
in 5, 6 consecutive episodes. It carried over like a miniseries instead of the whole thing ending in the 1 hour.
In capsulized 1 hour segments, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, the villain that was played by Ray Sharkey was so popular that after he was dead, you had to bring him back in flashback sequences.
Well, I think that was one of the things that made him popular. I'm not saying that he wouldn't have been otherwise, don't take it wrong, but the fact that he did die during the show, it shocked people. Plus, that was our first storyline. I was in the first season. And once people saw it, it was no longer novel. Then they got used to it. So they expected Kevin Spacey, who played the Mel Prophet character after that, they expected him to go. But they didn't expect it with Ray Sharkey. They didn't know that this was the way it was going to be. And, yeah, we brought him back for that in a scene where Vinny was in his drug-induced state, not involuntarily drug-induced, and the demons of his past, represented by Ray Sharkey's character Sonny Steelgrave, came to surface. And ironically, through this involuntary drug-induced state, he was able to deal with his demons and got rid of them through his dreams, because there was still a part of Sonny inside of him that he wasn't able to let go of, and the guilt he felt when Sonny killed himself.
Release.
And it worked out real well. We got nominated for an Emmy and all that stuff.
How close friends are you and Sharkey?
Well, I haven't seen him for a while. Yeah, he's been busy doing other things. I've been busy doing other things, but we call each other occasionally. And I saw the show when he was on here. And there's one thing that I want to say in response to something he said, and that was, he said that Wiseguy was Kenny's show, and that's just not true. He was being overly modest. That's not true. It was all of our shows. It was his, it was Kevin Spacey's, it was Jonathan Banks, Jim Burns, everybody's show. And we went into it that way. As a matter of fact, there's one story about the TV Guide when we were doing our gallery shots for the show to come on, the premiere. They want to do singles of me. And I said, no, I don't want to do singles because we're all in the show together. And a tiny little woman, photographer, and she looked up at me and she said, well, you know, you'll never get a cover on TV Guide. Like, this is my reason for living, is to get a cover on TV Guide. And I said, well, somehow I'll survive it. You know, and I never did. And we were all in it together. And that's another one of the things I think made it pretty good.
How disappointed were you when it came to an end?
Strangely enough, not very, because there was quite a bit made of that in the media, too, about the feud that Cannell and I had, which was untrue.
Yeah, Stephen J. Cannell,
Stephen J. Cannell, right. Essentially what happened was I called him from Mexico, which was during the hiatus period between the 3rd and 4th seasons, and he said that he didn't like the show and that he was going to take it over again and change it. And in his words, he said he was going to make it more visceral as opposed to cerebral. And I said, well, Steve, you're the boss, your name's on the building, you can do that, but not with me. And we figuratively shook hands over the phone and went our separate ways. So I was disappointed. I wanted to do one more year of it and end it with a little more dignity than it did end. But it wasn't to be, so just let it go and move on.
Was The Wanderers your first movie?
Yes. Yeah, it was the first acting that I had done of any kind.
How'd you wind up getting the part?
I just did an open audition at the ASCAP building over on Broadway. And they did a little 2-3 minute video screen test with us, and a couple days later I got the call. Called me up to the bigs. I think that movie holds up pretty well, looking back on it now.
Yeah.
And at the time, you know, I was just like a kid in a candy store.
At that point, were you saying to yourself, this is what I want to do, or were you still dabbling and that was one of many possibilities.
No, I'm. One thing I have going for me is I have a very strong sense of pragmatism. And I remember that the Screen Actors Guild representative came on the set and wanted us all to join the union. And I was the only guy of the 4 main guys in the movie that didn't join, because I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get another job after this. I've always been able to, I was looking back on it now, especially I was far beyond my years as far as keeping my feet on the ground and looking at things practically. I never let it get to my head. I mean, I went there with a purpose and what I had to do, and that it was a job. It's a very good job and can be a very satisfying job, but still, when you take away all the glitter and the media and everything else, it's just a job you got to do. So I thought if I can continue with this, I would like to, but if I can't, I'll have to do something else.
Suppose you weren't able to continue with it. What do you think the something else would have been?
Probably restoring cars, restoring the old cars. My dad's a mechanic, and I grew up around cars, and I collect old Dodges and Plymouths, and that's my main hobby, and I like that a lot, so that's probably what I do.
Sport's a big part of your background growing up, though, right? You're a pretty good baseball player, I'm told.
Yeah, I was, and I was a shortstop, too, and pretty big for that position, and I would like to think of myself as like what Cal Ripken is.
I was just going to say that.
I mean, that's the first one that comes to mind.
Outsized shortstop.
And I could hit the curve too, but I got racked up in a motorcycle accident, and that ended that. I'm not saying I would have been a pro, but I mean, I'll never know now. So.
But you would have had at least a shot at being drafted, you think, and playing minor league ball?
Maybe, AA, AAA, maybe. Who knows? We'll never know now.
They tell me that when they play those celebrity games at Dodger Stadium, at least until recently, you had an accident on the set, I guess, that's knocked you out of commission, but at least until recently, you were one of the guys that took it serious.
I did. Well, to me, since I was a little kid, my dad played minor league ball for a while, and in the Midwest League, and to be in a major league ballpark, even though it was a goof and you got all these celebrities out there, there's 55,000 people in the stands, and you're in a major league ballpark, Dodger Stadium. And these clowns would hit the ball and run the bases backwards and all that. And it was like blasphemous to me, you know what I mean? It was terrible. I wanted to kill him, and I couldn't go back anymore. It was just, it's a one shot. I mean, you know how many thousands, probably millions of guys that would like to just stand at the plate of a major league ballpark, and here we got this chance. And I did. I took it seriously. In the first game I played in, I hit a triple and drove in 2 runs and stole home. I was on top of the world. I mean, this is the greatest thing in a major league ballpark.
Who was the unlucky hurler victimized by this?
I don't remember, to be honest with you. It was some sports writer.
Well,
I remember
in that case, he's lucky he could get the ball to the plate.
Well, he didn't stand on the mound, though. He was like 20 feet ahead of the mound. But that was fun. And then I went back the following year, and then I said I knew this was it. I had to hang up the spikes.
Yeah. I'll give you one, and probably on any given day, you were 10 times the ball player I ever was, but I played in a game at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Tony Kubek and I were doing the baseball game of the week when NBC had the game, and they had one of those fantasy leagues where the guys over 35 pay $2,000. They spend a week, and they're playing baseball with Bob Gibson and Tim McCarver, Lou Brock, Kurt Flood. It's the Cardinal championship teams of the 60s. And Randy Hundley, the old Cub catcher who was organizing the game, that's right. He spots me and Kubek in the booth. He says, why don't you guys come down and play as ringers? Costas plays for the Campers, and Kubek can play for the Cardinals. So Bob Gibson's on the mound. It's 1984. Gibson was then the pitching coach for the Braves, still threw a lot of BP, and he could get it up into the low 80s, I would guess. I'm hitting 6th, first 5 guys up, all strikeout. I come up. He blows 2 right by me. And there's about 10,000 people in the stands who stayed after this afternoon Cardinal game. So he blows the first 2 right by me, swings and misses. Now in comes the 3rd one. He lets up a little bit, and I foul it back. And I remember twisting around and seeing people behind the backstop fighting in a big league park for a foul ball that I had hit. And I say to myself, great, I strike out on the next pitch, but this is fine. I made contact. I'm not totally pathetic. Next pitch, lift a pop wide of 3rd. Mike Shannon goes over, lets it drop in the coach's box, so my at-bat continues. Gibson, still the competitor, glares at Shannon, ticked off, right? Brings the next one in, and I don't know how. Middle of the plate, I hit the crap out of this ball. A line drive in the left center field that splits Brock and Flood. and goes to the wall on the AstroTurf, right?
The fish you caught was this big, right?
A triple.
Bob? Yeah. Okay, no, I believe it. All right.
I want the footage of this. I want the footage of this on this show. To the wall for... He sets out to make a lousy movie on purpose, but you see a lot of lousy scripts, right?
Yes.
You've been turning them down left and right, they told me.
Yes, I have. Luckily, I have a pretty low-key lifestyle, so as you can tell by the duds, and I don't necessarily adhere to the Hollywood illusion of gaining much material wealth in order to show my station in life or my degree of success. And being pragmatic again and growing up the way I did, I put my money away and took care of it so that I don't have to do a project that I want to do. I've had to do that a couple of times, and it's not enjoyable at all. And I've turned down 22 movies this year, this calendar year. And I just want to do something that grabs me, and I haven't found that yet.
Are there specific sorts of roles that you keep seeing and you're turning down, or is it just a potpourri of lousiness?
Yeah, it's pretty much a potpourri, Bob, of lousiness. I got to use that.
Well, you could use it if you were on Jeopardy. You could take potpourri for 40, but other than that, I don't think the word is ever used on television. It's not allowed to be used, actually.
That's good. I like that. Yeah, most of them are just, it's not a question of being typecast, because I don't worry about that, because you just have to turn them down. You don't have to do these things.
Yeah.
And I get varied roles offered to me, but it's more important that the story is good. The story's got to grab you, and I just haven't found that yet, that's all.
Why'd you take The Taking of Beverly Hills? What grabbed you about that?
Is because it was so completely different from Wiseguy. Wiseguy was a very intense, very dark, very difficult show to do. It was very satisfying and very gratifying as an actor, but it was not fun. I can count 5 days when I had fun out of 66 episodes. And I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something fun, something lighthearted. So I patterned this character I played, Boomer Hayes, after what Joe Namath used to be like, the Playboy quarterback. I even used his number 12, the whole bit. And this guy has not a care in the world. And this movie is not to be taken seriously. It was, to be honest with you, it was for very selfish motives. It was more for my entertainment than anybody else's.
What's the premise?
The premise is there's a group of renegade cops, ex-cops, that are bitter about Beverly Hills, the people that have too much. And so they devise this plan that they're going to loot Beverly Hills. And how they do this is by staging a fake toxic chemical spill, thereby evacuating...
Oldest trick in the business.
Yeah, right. Why didn't I think of that? Thereby evacuating the city and then going in and looting all the houses of their valuables. And I inadvertently, my character inadvertently gets caught within the boundaries of Beverly Hills, and I have to save the day.
Around the country tomorrow in The Taking of Beverly Hills, and now for our amusement, if not yours, a little pickup basketball, a few shots as we say so long.
There it is.
Off the,
Yeah,
blows the assist, misses the shot, goes for the bank, 0 for 2.
Don't watch it. Shoot it and go.
Ladies and gentlemen, only this stands between me and total disgrace. See you later.
Thanks for watching Cleveland Live Music. It's awfully bright out here. I'd click on another one of my videos. Quit looking into the sun. Your mother told you not to do that. Please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to support the channel more, there's GoFundMe and Patreon information in the video descriptions. Ooh, ooh!